This replay cast is sponsored by TappyToons. With over 300 Korean webcomics and daily updates, TappyToons is the home for amazing content, including fantasy, romance, action, and comedy web series. One title I can recommend is The Lazy Lord Masters the Sword, a fantastic piece about a lazy prince who seeks to become a powerful swordsman. Use the special link in the description to support Alpha X events, and thank you TappyToons for sponsoring these replays. Now, back to the games. And without further ado, let's get this series underway. Spawning. Up here in the top left side of Curious Minds to start things off, give it up for Byun. And his opponent. Down here in the bottom right, give it up for Serral. And a couple of things that are going to be a little bit different with this map. This is the TLMC 15 version of Curious Minds, so it's a little bit different. I believe that a couple of different changes were made to kind of make it a little bit better. On a lot of maps, you know, you did have a large back area where a Liberator could get in and not really have any room for the Zerg to kind of attack it. And I guess some other little quality of life changes that we probably should see Blizzard be making here in a little bit. But back into this one here, we do have an aggressive Terran player up here in Byun, and I'm very excited to see how Serral does decide to react to that, as while he doesn't struggle versus aggressive Terrans, he does have a bit of an issue reaching that critical mass when he does get up against them. We kind of see it in him versus Clem quite a bit, and I think Byun is kind of just Clem a little bit older. Right now, Serral just kind of getting some scouting around with these first couple of overlords, making sure that there is no proxy to start this series out. And from here, it looks like Byun is just going to be skipping that initial Reaper, going for that fast reactor so he can just start pumping out the Marines. Now, granted, this is not a 2-1-1 as we do have the factory in the backfield, but getting those Marines out very early still opens up the possibility of drop play. And I think drop plays are pretty important versus early game Zerg, because you really do want to stop them from hitting that critical mass of their economy. You got to keep them on a lower worker count, because if they're consistently having to remake workers, that's going to be a lot less army. So as you push out, you're going to face less resistance, and it's just going to be a little bit easier to kind of keep yourself in the lead. Now, Serral, to his credit, he's not taking any damage right now. Obviously, it's still very early in the game to tell, but he is just feeling confident enough to drone up, and he is hitting about 30 workers here in just a little bit. Behind that, though, we do see the Roach Warren. Now, there's two ways that he can go with this. This could be for a little bit of safety, or he could just cut worker production very early on and just go straight into a Roach all-in. Personally, I think it does help Byun a little bit, the fact that he is going for Banshee and also got that factory up nice and early, if it is indeed a Roach count. But right now, we just see a little bit of a poke, a bit of a prod against these queens. Not really going to overextend here, as that would be very risky to do. Serral as well doesn't really have a lot of army count right now, as he's just focusing on those Roaches. And the Marines starting to split up a little bit. They're going the long way home. The wall is down. There is enough here to kind of defend. Here we go. The Roaches starting to make their way off the creep, searching for the Marines, which are very aggressive right now, still out on the map. looks like right now he doesn't want to show the fact that he does have a couple of roaches, but drone production has stopped for the meantime. Adding on that additional extractor as well, going up to 4, or 3 rather. It's going to be pretty important here. But a nice little scout in from Serral. He does get all the information he needs. Supply blocks himself for just a second, but not the biggest of deals. And now here we go. The roaches kind of just getting ready for their push. Banshee does manage to come in. It will get deflected for now after getting 2 kills. But the fact that he still has that alive and still in relatively good health will mean that he can use that later on. Serral has restarted his droning, so he's not all in by any stretch of the imagination. Going up to lair as well. Getting some information, just seeing that there is indeed no third base on location. Has he been up the ramp? So he hasn't seen this base right now. Not the biggest of deals for him. Right now, I think the ball's still kind of in Byun's court. The Roach Army doesn't have speed, so once it gets off the creep, it's a little bit more difficult to kind of engage into any sort of stim bio play. Looks like the Queens will start to go down here. Byun just going to sack these Banshees in. 2 very quick Queen kills here. And he will get out with 3 worker kills as well. So just finding little bits of damage here and there. Although Serral starting to get close to that critical mass. He's getting 60 workers at the moment. And his army supply is starting to go up quite heavily as well. Byun playing this very passively right now, I've got to say. Usually as the Terran player, you do want to at least have a couple units out on the map, just to kind of keep your opponent back and trade out versus these very stylish Lings. I like that red hue that they got going on. But now Byun is deciding to move out with a small marine force. He will try and clear up some of this creep just over here on the left side. And that's going to prompt Serral to send a small little run-by up here to the Zelnaga Tower. But Byun will be able to keep that locked down for the meantime while that creep is spreading over. Serral just kind of slowly pushing out with this creep. But Byun has completely ignored the fact that the purple carpet has made its way very close to his third base location. And so that's just going to be a very nice little angle for Serral to move in here, especially once he starts to add on those infestors. He's getting his plus 1 upgrades coming on in, and he is going up to Hive as well. So he will be very well set up for the later stages of the game as Byun is sticking with pure marine tank. Just trying to fight into the choke point, but that's not really the angle you want to go into, especially not once the siege tanks start to get involved. Take a look at the upgrades here. He never got the infestor upgrade, so he won't have any extra energy. He's going to have to bank up for the fungals. But Byun not really going to take advantage of anything here. I would like to see him at least try and clear up some of this creep. Maybe get closer to the fourth base of Serral. He's got to do something because Serral is pretty well set up, and it's very difficult at this stage to break a Zerg in this setup. There we go. A little bit of a drop play coming on in. Now Serral has absolutely nothing here to defend, as he's focused way heavily on the main army here in the center of the map. We also have a little bit of a Banshee skirmish, a little cat fight right there, and that will end in the death of a queen. 7 workers going down, and now Byun is hitting in as many locations as possible. The fungal growth whiffs its target. And so just really not wanting to engage off of the creep, he will retreat back to his safe zone. In fact, he's not even going to bother saving anything up here. Instead, focusing all of his attention up here. Not even enough biles to take care of the siege tank. So Byun just going to start this slow leapfrog further and further into Serral's territory. Looks like Serral's 2-2 is about to kick in. Byun was a little bit late to start his 3-3, so that is a long ways off. The bow's going to go down. Another siege tank will fall. The lurkers have burrowed right on top, but Byun is just going to dive on in. Gets a couple of quick ones. Unfortunately, though, that might cost him a few of his units, but Serral is starting to bleed out a little bit. He is still at max because of the fact that he has so many bases and so much income. But that bank that he might have had is gone. Even just the fact that he has to expend so many of his units up here to defend is such a big deal for him. But Byun is going to start to give him a little bit of room to breathe. Oh, huge fungal's going to go down over the medevacs, but not enough to finish them off. A fighting retreat. It's a bit of a Pyrrhic fight there for Serral. Dived quite a bit of supply. If we take a look at the units lost tab, yeah, he's about 1,000 minerals behind. But now it comes down to, can Byun kind of keep these pushes going? Because like I said, it's really difficult to break a defensive Zerg player like this, as he will have plenty of bases and a lot of splash damage in these lurkers, making it very difficult to engage in. Double prong harassment coming on in. The lurkers back at home doing what they can. The marauders are able to tank a little bit more, but not versus this number. Oh, that's a very quick 300 mineral kill there. The siege tank does go down. The planetary doing what it can, but it is running out of time. The question is, how much of this will Serral get out of here with? I think he's just quite happy to keep this push going. Byun has stopped all forward progress. All the SCVs are pulled as well. 25 of them do go down. The Marauders, even them, having a little bit of trouble dealing with it. Unfortunately for Serral, though, it does look like that's going to cost him a base of his own, but a huge fungal might actually save him there. And indeed, Byun has to retreat. 3 upgrades for Byun now, so he's taking as well of a fight as he can, but now he's down. Actually, funnily enough, he's on equal workers with Serral still. So he's not behind in terms of that economy, but he does need to get this base back up and mining very, very soon. From here as well, our Terran player is going to be switching into Ghost Tech. So that, coupled with the siege tanks, does kind of tell me that he might be trying to force Serral into attacking into him. And Serral is only too happy to oblige. The lurkers do what they can, but they do have to retreat there, not really wanting to afford to lose them, as Serral can't afford to replace these high-tier, expensive army. Looks like we have a bit of a, like, super soft contain up here in the top side. He's trying to force Serral to come on in, and Serral only too happy to oblige. Blinding Cloud's gonna blanket the siege tanks. A couple of good shots still gonna go off on the sides, but a very easy cleanup for Serral right there. Advanced Fuse as well gonna save the queens in the front, but they are almost out of energy, so no more Croup Tumors to replace. It's like we almost had a drop play there, but instead just going to keep that there. A couple of lurkers do get sniped very, very quickly, but Byun misses the next couple, and it will cost him a couple of his ghosts. Now Byun keeping the pressure, but now here comes Serral in the backfield. Byun sees it at the last second, and he does have a couple of siege tanks still in his main base. So he will be able to clean that out, but Serral didn't have any units in there, because they are all here in the front, ready to defend the hatch. Taking a look at the income here. Serral has a bit of a lead, not as big as you would expect at this stage in the game. But it's that army size that really tells a lot of the story. 137 to 106. It's never a point, that's never a thing you want to see as the Zerg player this late into the game. Scan's gonna go down. Byun has taken the high ground. A small drop getting brought over to the top side, but Serral has already sniffed that out. He sends the Lings to engage, and again Byun is just continuously being stopped by these lurkers. Ooh, a little bit too far forward there, as we do see the small drop gonna do what it can up here. So Byun is still all over the place. He still has plenty of ghosts come out in. One EMP does go down. Whiffs the Infestor, though. He's trying to get rid of these Overlords so that he can go in and just get those snipes off. Like, we did see Serral try and move in, but there is a good defensive concave right here. Some beautiful Sim City. And Serral, he still doesn't really have a lot to his name right now. But he is just going to dive right on top of this. Burrows right on the siege tanks. Blinding Cows coming down a little bit late, so they don't get the full effect. At the end of the day, it looks like it's just going to be enough, as Byun starting to falter in terms of that supply, but he does have a fighting retreat going right now. In fact, he will make it very painful for Serral to try and engage any further. So now Serral has to stay back. He has to rebuild his army. He can't really afford to push any sort of advantage from winning that last fight, because Byun is already coming in with his next big attack, and that is quite a few siege tanks. Again, the Nidus Swarm does go down. A couple of Marines. Will it be enough? A couple of good snipes getting rid of the Vipers. 3 more lurkers going down. The Banelings do roll on in, so a bunch of those ghosts will fall. The Nidus Swarm does get taken down up here. The Changelings dropped for better use. So far, 16 ghosts lost in this game. Serral's actually not doing too bad in terms of trading efficiently. Trying to get a little bit of contention up here. The Lings will get taken down, and actually Byun is not going to push anything on here as he doesn't want to engage where the lurkers are. The creep is starting to recede in many locations, which does mean that it'll be a little bit more difficult to move around as Serral. So if Byun can get rid of some more of that, he should be able to keep some multi-prong going on. I don't think he really needs to commit to one location anymore. As, yeah, a little Ling run back gonna come take advantage of the fact there's a planetary. Forces a lot of Byun's units back home. But now, right now on the production tab, all we see is just pure Ling for Serral, and that kind of tells you that he can't really afford to make too much else other than Ling Bane Hydra. Looks like he does get another snipe on that queen, just slowly pushing in this location. His attention, I bet, is down here at the Nidus Worm. But he will be able to clean that lurker up after losing 3 of his own SCVs. Army supply is the real story here, but just take a look at that worker supply. It's just very low for this stage in the game, I'm sure. Interesting placement for that Nidus Worm right there as well. Might be trying to go for a bit of a surround, as the siege tanks are actually all by their lonesome. Even going to let the lurkers go straight for that 4th, or 5th rather. Serral as well trying to take the bottom side of the map, as the orbital, it's an orbital, not a planetary, so it will have to lift up and get on out of there. So Serral as well just denying some more mining on that top side. Now we see Serral just kind of rotating around. He's going to try and defend the lower side of the map now. He doesn't have anything at risk in the top side. It is all gone. That's going to be a really difficult base to hold, I feel, just because he doesn't have any creep anywhere near that. So Byun can get right on top of it without so much as a word. But here we go. Byun once again going to rotate in. Serral going to be the first one to dive on top. EMP's blanketing the Vipers, so very few bind counts, but it's the Fungals that absolutely decimate his army. And Serral just going to try and push his way to victory right here, right now, as this is about the best situation he could have hoped for. So much of the economy is down here. For Byun, he is getting swamped over here on his base, and now the ghost production is fully killed off, so he doesn't really have too much else to his name. And as the red blips just get stronger and stronger and more spread out, I think this is it for Byun. He dips below 100 supply, and I think Serral has definitely done it, but Byun is going to try and hold out strong with his last little bit of army. It's still quite powerful at 82 units, but is it enough? Does have a couple siege tanks and still a couple of ghosts left. So while not necessarily a base trade, this is actually starting to close up a little bit, but the fact is Serral has this base down here, so he is still continuously mining. Byun is pretty much not. 1,700 minerals more. Yeah, that's 6 is going to be a 6 for quite a long time. Even these guys just aren't feeling like working while there's a lurker in the backfield. we go, the last little bit of an engagement. Serral gets the surround in the back. Blinding clouds blanketing the siege tanks. There's not a ton of lings left, but the lurker's going to be able to burrow on top of this. The scans aren't available because the orbitals are lifted up. And I think that is going to be pretty much it. There you have it. GG is called. So a couple of things I would like to see. While Byun did start to kind of get aggressive, by the time he did, Serral did have a quite nice defense going for him, so maybe just kind of trying to hit a little bit quicker. But on Serral's side, we do see this little fancy building that came down way before this one. So we have a spawning pool first, and Byun, he's one of those players who a lot of the time I don't want to say he forgets to scout, but he just refuses to scout because he's so set in his build order that he doesn't feel like he needs the information. So this is a really risky situation for him, as there is a good potential for his natural CC to go and get cancelled here. I have to see, as he is going for the fast reactor tech once again. Alright, we've got our second racks coming on down. We'll have to see if it's a 2-1-1 or a 3 racks here, as it is going to be a 3 racks coming on in. So Byun is going to be looking to hit hard and fast versus Serral. A couple of lings do make their way over and go straight for the SCV, while the rest make their way into the main base here. SCVs are pulled. 2 of them will go down. But overall, not as much as Serral was probably hoping for, but he does get a very nice delay on this CC. As well as a beautiful scout all over, sees the fact that it is indeed that 3 racks. So back at home, he knows he just has to get set up for the attack. Is going to come in a couple minutes. What's the best way to deal with it? Probably a Baneling Nest, or I mean, he could go roaches again, but I feel like Baneling Nest is going to be the best for long-term utility, especially if he decides to go up to mutas on 3 bases here. Here we go. Stim is about halfway complete, so these Marines just trying to hit a little bit quicker before the transfuse energy really speeds up on these queens. I think he did manage to juke around the scouts, on the map for Serral. So he's just gonna try and poke around this 3rd base just a little bit. Might get a queen. He does indeed get one. Yeah, Serral's having a little bit of a struggle to contend with this. He doesn't have enough lings at the moment. But Byun not going to overextend here. As Serral looking to go for a wraparound, a bit of a counterattack of his own while the wall is not complete. Gets the full surround, but Byun's going to fight as hard as he can. Fortunately for him, there's just way too much swarm. But I don't think Serral should try and go too much further, because we do have the secondary army ready to go. So not the best idea to try and force the issue. For Serral's side, one thing he's got going for him is now that he's on 3 bases, he's quite ahead economically because of the fact that Byun still has not gotten his starport up. It's only about halfway done now, so there's not going to be any medevac support for this next big push. So every time Byun stims, it's going to be very, very painful for him. bit of a scout. Sees the fact that it's going to be Marine Marauder again as Serral getting his lair, going straight up to Banelings, and he will be a little bit ahead in terms of those upgrades as his 1-1 has begun. So overall, Byun, once again, he tried to get a little bit of early damage done. He didn't manage to snipe the base, but this is actually a quite scary army now that the medevacs have come on in. Or medevac, singular. I have to see if it's going to be enough, as the Baneling Nest only just now finishing, so there will not be centrifugal hooks. Might give Byun a little bit of room to kind of maneuver around in. All is done over here, so won't really be able to break that without some Banes. Finding a nice little location to siege up into. So just kind of retreating back towards his base. He wants to make sure that he is okay. As we do see a little bit of a 360 surround. The Lings getting ready for it at the very least. So Byun has to be very careful with how he tries to engage in here. In fact, it looks like he's just going to play it safe and reset himself down here by the Zelnaga Watchtower. Another small drop going to be coming in as well with a couple of siege tanks, so that should be able to do a little bit here. But clock is kind of ticking for Byun. We do see the fact that he has not gone for +1 armor at all, only just now starting that. He's got Liberators, he's adding on those additional racks now, but Serral is going to start his own centrifugal hooks a little bit late. Besides that, however, he is going up to his 4th and 5th base, and I think he does have quite a few Lings in order to defend both locations, so Byun's window is starting to close as to when he can get damage done. Serral as well, just ready to pounce down here, waiting for the army to be out of position. As we see the drop over here, just being a little bit of a nuisance. Good tank placement is going to prevent those Lings from getting us around. Now the Liberators as well. This is just starting to really add up for Serral here, but he's just going to say to heck with it. I'm going to go for a pretty big strike. Chance uses as well, just making it very difficult for these Liberators to get anything done. They do manage to get one with help from those siege tanks. But he's being very patient with this very big run by. Again, barely saw it there for a second, but I don't know if he saw it. And we do see a lot of his attention is focused up here in the top side. Some good medevac placement just to try and get as much damage done as possible. But Serral will be able to clean that up. It's going to cost him a base, however. So he is back down to 3. But that's going to be his indicator that he needs to pounce. The Banelings just going to roll their way in. The SCVs caught in the crossfire as Banes try to make their way to the main base. The Lings ravage the 3rd. Now we were kind of in this situation last game a little bit later on, where Byun took massive SCV damage and just really struggled to recover. So we'll have to see if he can make his way back, as he is doing a little bit of work up here, just trying to distract some of those SCV, or drones rather. Managed to get a couple of them, but the lone survivor does need to get out of there. Granted, he still has a relatively scary army. Taking a look at the units lost tab here. Taking a look at this one as well. His army supply is actually relatively even with Serral right now. But that can change in an instant. He's relying on these mules to at least keep him afloat as that income actually starting to go back into his favor. Interesting. Oh, it's because Serral doesn't have has very few drones. As Byun is just going to rotate around, find a couple of locations where he can strike for picking on up and getting out of there. So he's trading relatively efficiently until he did that. But it's just this main army that's having trouble finding any traction. Moves forward right into the Banelings. Now so getting ready for a wraparound of his own. Finally cleaning up that medevac as well. So now Byun, he's starting to lose that forward momentum. Like, I think from here, he's got to start to turtle up a little bit. He's got to start to kind of get ready for the next stage. Maybe stop going just pure marine siege tank and add in some marauders in there to soak up some of those banes. As we do see the medevacs getting spotted, so they will have to pick up and retreat. Creep getting cleared up a little bit up here in the top side. Actually a really nice position right there. Gonna trade out some of those lings. But at this point, Serral can just continuously remax, especially with the fact that he does a pretty big Baneling run by right there. 7 more workers for Byun going down. I feel like Byun might have to be a little bit more decisive here, but the biggest thing going for him is the fact that it is still only lair tech for Serral, so he's going to be stuck at 2-2 upgrades for quite a long time. And he doesn't really have any tech to speak of. We do see Liberators still continuously being made, but they don't really serve a huge utility unless he's trying to go for some sort of harassment, which at the moment he's not. Which he is now. Another little Baneling run by, 9 more worker deaths. So trying to clear up on this side, but he tries to fight without the Banes. He will be able to finish this off, and the siege tank as well will go down. Up here in the top, Byun is still in an established position though. Transfuse is trying to save the base as long as possible, as we do have the wraparound coming on in and getting deflected by the siege tanks. Very big camping position outside of Serral's third base, or natural rather, as we do see Serral rotating in, looking for some damage of his own. He will find a almost completely undefended base. Looks like he's going to spend some time just clearing up the rocks so he can go home if necessary. That is a lot of queens with a lot of energy, so breaking this position is going to be so difficult. Wraparound is on the way. As a full 360 surround comes in the front side, able to dominate, and Byun has to pick up. He has to get out of there, but he will lose all of his siege tanks for it. And Serral has regained full map control. Byun's not dead by any stretch of the imagination, though, guys, as he still has quite a scary army. Taking a look at the use loss tab, he is still trading relatively efficiently. A 5,000 mineral difference. And he is still trying to hit multiple spots to try and just draw Serral out and force him to overextend himself. Looks like here, Byun, though, not paying attention, will lose so many units. And that's actually going to stop a lot of his forward momentum. Oh, that was really, really bad. Serral, once again, just very addicted to the dangerous bases. He's a dangerous man. I guess a little bit of treason going on there from that medevac. As we see, once again, Serral going to be able to wrap his way around. And does manage to find the base almost undefended once again. Just a Liberator in the sky. Queens going a little bit too far forward, so they will be taken down. But this is still, again, this is a really entrenched position for Byun, and it's not really doing too well, as Serral is doing a very good job of hitting from every single side. Just getting ready for the wraparound once again. The siege tank is mighty, but I don't know if it's enough. Queen's in the front, and this is going to be Serral's time to drive his way in. The Banelings getting massive connections on the Marines. The siege tanks all starting to fall, and Byun, his supply has plummeted in this last engagement. While he does still have the army supply lead here, 71 to 72, he did have it when I said it. It's just not really trading efficiently. These Banes are just getting way too good of connections. Take a look at that now. It's still only Lair Tech, though, so he is still fighting with a +1 upgrade advantage. Drones starting to fall in the top side. The Liberator doing what they can. A base is sniped, but the SCVs happen to be recalled from this base. It's still a relatively scrappy game here, but it's I just don't see Byun being able to like break through just yet. Not, especially not with this army composition. He just doesn't really have a buffer for his Marines. He doesn't have any Marauders in. He doesn't have nearly enough siege tanks anymore because he's continuously losing them. Only 3 out on the map. So he's trying to trade tit for tat. It's just not really working for him. Another big run by gonna come on in. Byun down to only 28 workers, losing a lot of those fresh mules. Looks like Serral will cede this base to him. But honestly, that's not really the biggest of deals for him, as he's gonna get another big connection on these SCVs. So Byun starting to bleed. Once again, we see that 6. This time it's going up a little bit quicker, but not by much. Be able to make his way, and the drones are pulled away. Serral being very patient with how he wants to engage into this. The big thing is he doesn't really have to, and he knows that. You know, he still has a fully mining base down here. He still has this one that is about to be operational. And he knows that Byun isn't going to really be able to remake too many of these units. So he can just patiently retreat and take the engagement on his own terms. That's a lot of Liberators, though. Oh my goodness. Looks like trying to go for the surround. He does try and engage in a little bit late. The splits are pretty good, but that's just going to prompt the rest of the army to come on in. The Liberators in the sky wailing away on those Hydralisks. And Serral might have overplayed his hand there, as now he doesn't even have enough units to defend down here in the bottom side. So Byun, like, after what were not the best engagements, he's actually pulling ahead quite strongly. The Lynx trying to fight before they're together. Oh my goodness. Rest of the army as well coming on down here. He has not seen that bottom base, but GG is called. And so we've kind of seen a lot of the same in these last couple of games. I don't really expect them to be changing things up too much. But you know, they've gotten this far in the home story cup, so they definitely do want to kind of go towards that final game, that final series, that final win. Right now we do see, once again, we see that spawning pool first out of Serral, which means once again he wants to get that kill. And honestly, this natural is a little bit more exposed, I've got to say. Just taking a look at it, it does look just a hair further away than other maps, so that is pretty interesting there. Byun, to his credit, he's just going to stick with what he's been going for. We've seen two different ways for him to play this out. It looks like he might be going for the 3 racks once again. I would like to see if he wants to go back to the 2-1-1 though. Serral has been a little bit slow to kind of build up that army composition. You know, we didn't even see the lair until about the 530, 540 mark. So it would be pretty decent to maybe have that 2-on-1, because it kind of leads into the mid to late game a little bit more strongly. As with the 3 racks, it's very good, it's very powerful, but you only get like one shot to do a lot of damage before you have to back on out, because you just don't have enough health without those medevacs. This is pretty bad for Byun as well. It looks like Serral is committing quite a bit more to this attack. Luckily, there are a lot of Marines, and Serral's not attacking with everything together. The Marines finding a decent location to engage into before they get taken down. But it looks like the SCVs will have to fight for their lives instead of trying to repair each other. So far, only 3 going down. There we go, the rest of them do die, but what this does is it slows down any sort of aggression Byun was going to go for, like big time. So now what that means is that Serral himself can build up a little bit more safely. He can just start droning up behind this without too much of a worry. Yeah, that was actually a really good engagement for Serral. So Serral just kind of droning up. It looks like he's actually going to commit quite heavier here, as he is linging up very, very hard. He sees the move out from Byun coming his way, but he doesn't see this small little poke on the other side of things. So Serral is just going to drone up a little bit more here. But we go. This is Byun's first big foray out onto the map. Oh. Wrong button. As you can kind of see, he once again just hasn't scouted. You really don't when you're going for something as aggressive as this. But, you know, he does have a little bit of a window here. The Baneling Nest is not complete. If he can get rid of these creep tumors, that's going to be good for later attacks as well. But here we go. The first stim comes on in, transfuses, going on down, saving the queens with everything they've got. The Lings trying to keep them off, but now the energy is starting to deplete. But Byun just doesn't have enough in the chamber, and he will have to back on out. So far, Serral getting the better of him in this situation, and he doesn't really have an avenue he can get out in. So he's just going to have to sack these Marines. Luckily, though, he does have another army back at home, but now Serral has Banelings. So this situation gets dicier and dicier by the minute. Byun not one to give up after his first big strike. He is going to move out here with a bit of a smaller army. We can kind of see it's only 41 units to the 38. But now with the Banelings on the way, centrifugal hooks as well finishing up pretty soon. It's not going to be really easy for him to move in here, especially with only one siege tank. But he does manage to get down to the bottom of the ramp here. He's going to force his way up for just a little bit of time, but that is going to open up the avenue for Serral to just go for a big surround. The siege tank does die, but he gets out of there with a majority of these Marines. A couple of additional medevacs, a couple of additional reinforcements here. I would like to see him attack all together. Maybe build up that siege tank count a little bit more rather than just attacking with one at a time. Some good snipes on those Banes. But he's still going to have to lift up. He's still going to get out of here. And Serral once again just trying to maintain that map control by clearing out this army. Trying to bait the army around with these medevacs. Just doing what he can to buy some time for the rest of his army to come in and save them. Setting up a liberator position up here at the top side, but he's going to have to go pretty far to get to the bases of Serral right now. So let's see if he can do it. Already picking off a couple of those Lings. Byun is still up in terms of that army supply. But once again, Serral is just getting ready for the surround. The Banelings getting ready to strike. And Byun just not really paying attention to these guys. The splits aren't really there, so he's losing quite a few more units than he necessarily should. See over here, he's trying to take his third base as well, a little bit late at the 9-minute mark, but here we go. Serral dives on top of the army, cleans up those siege tanks, and is going to clean out the liberators as well. They will have to retreat. The worst thing for Serral right now is just the fact that while he is clearing out these armies, he's setting the supply of Byun. He's not doing it super cost efficiently, excuse me. And because he's not doing it super efficiently, Byun is able to kind of force the issue, just keep resending out these armies, and Serral doesn't really have room for a counterattack. Although it looks like he is going to try here with this very big run by. There are some Marines at home to defend, but Byun's attention is over here in the strike. Byun being very careful not to overextend himself right now. He does not want to move too far forward, especially not since he's lost so many SCVs. But here we go, the full surround once again. Serral just really making it difficult for Byun to engage into anything. And the Hydralisks creeping up on those Liberators and taking them down. But how far can Serral really engage into this? Looks like the answer is pretty far, since again, Byun just not getting the splits in, and that will put Serral on match point. And it looks like Serral this time is not going to go for that fast spawning pool. Instead, just going to drop the hatchery and try and play this one out a little bit stronger, as that hatchery first does mean that he can kind of power up, get those additional larvae, and maybe try and overwhelm Byun early on, because that's kind of been where Serral has been lacking. He's kind of been relying on Byun to lose his army, so maybe a little bit more aggressive would kind of make the game go a little bit quicker for him. Now we do see on Byun's side of things, he is just going to change things up slightly here, going for that first Marine before Reactor. And that's just going to allow him to build up some of that gas, as he's only just now taking his refineries. That's pretty interesting here. That kind of tells me that we're going to see additional racks come in. The question is it going to be 1 or 2 additional racks? Like right now, it's going to be a little Overlord hunt, as Byun searching for it. Not going to go too far, not going to overextend with these first couple of units. There we go, actually just going to go straight up into that factory. Quite an interesting little play here from Byun. I don't think it really delayed anything either. But yeah, overall not bad. Ah, there you go. There's the extra racks coming in behind the backfield here, just to kind of make sure Serral doesn't get a scout off on him. As well, just being very cautious, keeping those Marines on patrol in the main base, making sure everything is safe and secure. We do have Hellbats coming in, as well as Stim going to be starting up soon. So while I don't think it's going to be Hellbat push, I think he might look to go for kind of a Hellion run by with a Marine detachment. That'd be pretty interesting to see, because you send the Marines to the main base via the medevacs, and then you send the Hellions into the natural. Sometimes that can be a little bit difficult to deal with. Serral, though, is going to see absolutely everything here. The speedy Overlord coming on in, sees the stim, sees the starport being dropped down. And so he's going to be feeling quite good about himself as to what's coming his way, because he still has a little bit of time to drone up before he really has to start pumping the Z key. Stimpak is about to complete up. The first couple of medevacs are coming in, and the third base is down. So Byun just powering up and not really pushing any issue. There we go. The first big drop going to be coming in. Still no upgrades. Only just now adding on the engineering base. So Serral will have quite a big lead with that 1-1. And now Serral, he's going up to lair. He's getting those extra lings. Like, he's ready to roll right now, even just cleaning up these rocks so that Byun can't be aggressive on this side of the map as he wants to take his 4th here. Hellions moving a little bit too far away, so they will get taken down, but the Queens trying to fight on their own. Transfuses keeping them alive. As the medevacs do need to get out of there. They did what they could. But Serral actually being very cost efficient right now. He's taking a 4th. He's getting a macro hatch, and it's natural. I think he feels pretty darn safe, all things considered here. As Byun is just going to try and push the issue a little bit more before the centrifugal hooks finishes. As we've got his entire army coming for a big push. Serral, however, is going to take this opportunity to get a huge run by started as he just gets the scout off, sees everything that's going on. Not gonna actually strike just yet. Byun is a little bit supply blocked actually, so that's gonna be a bit painful. But clearing up the supply block by losing the SCV should be okay. Now Serral, he's got his upgrade advantage. He's got +2 attack started up. Funnily enough, Byun has not had combat shields this entire time. So if those Banes would have made a connection, it would have been absolutely devastating for him. Infestation pit on the way as well, so going up to Hive relatively soon. Rocks are getting cleared up so that he can have these extra little angles where he can do run-bys and just kind of crush Byun's army. As Byun really starting to fall behind in terms of that supply. 73 army count, but only 131 to 151 total. Gonna look at that income tab. Yeah, it's resoundingly in Serral's favor and going up by the minute. So Byun, if he's gonna do something, he needs to do it now. He's got a drop ready to go, but he's not pulling the trigger on it just yet. There we go. Lift up is good. The drones were pulled, so nothing was killed there. So Byun just, again, not really able to find the avenues as Serral getting closer and closer to maxing out. Trying to trade out in the center of the map, but the lift up is forced. A little bit of SimCity here, just trying to keep his bases alive and operational. Yeah, I think from here, Byun is just going to want to turtle up a little bit, or regain some of that supply, and instead of trying to push, just try and get ready for the trade out. But oh, another big loss there. Oh, that is terrible for Byun right there, losing 31 units total in this game. Still trying to fly around as well, looking for an avenue to make it in. The Bainley's coming on in. They do get stopped this time, not before getting a supply depot, having to repair the refinery. But Serral is all over Byun's drop as well. So that's not going to be too long for this Will, and Byun not paying attention will lose the entire thing. See, Serral has full map control right now. He's got Vipers on the field, full energy. And this creep tumor is getting further and further closer to his base. He keeps getting caught out here and trading out these units that he can't really afford to lose anymore. And while he is in a nice defensive position, it's tricky. It's just very tricky to say how he can come back into this game because his supply is just so far behind Serral's. Now Byun is fully turtled up. Just building on those siege tanks and liberators, cut marine production because he wants to save some room for those ghosts that he's going to be adding on. But this just allows Serral to take the entire map almost, even the gold minerals down here in the bottom. So just trying to make his way in, but blinding clouds are a good possibility. Thinking here, the only way that Serral can lose is if he just dives head first and doesn't kill off these siege tanks. Right now, that's not the case, however, as these Ultralisks just bombing through these guys. And that is actually just going to be it. Byun runs out of supply. GG is called. Thank you to Tappy Tunes for sponsoring this replay cast, and we will see you guys at the next big event.